Well, greetings everyone. It's Chris MacLellan, the Bow Tie Guy, for another special episode of Healing Ties. And today we're doing an author spotlight with Gary Joseph Leblanc. And we're in Melbourne, Florida. Maybe next time we can go to Melbourne, Australia. What do you think, Gary?
Long distance.
Well, you've just written a terrific book, The After Effects of Caregiving. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about the book?
The After Effects of Caregiving is something that I put together an honest conversation about what happens when we're done caregiving, because honestly, nobody talks about this. And we got to discuss, when you're caregiving and you're caring for somebody, for my instance, I was caring for my dad with dementia for 11 years. Now I'm caring for my mom with vascular dementia. But we're living in the present. And bottom line is, like, we're thinking about, okay, I just want to get through today. We're not thinking about tomorrow. We're not thinking about a year later. We're not thinking about when they're gone. And bottom line, caregiving is a life-changing event. We know this now.
With an estimated 43 million family caregivers in the United States today, there's very little information available when caregiving ends. You've got a cutting-edge book here.
Well, this is, like I said, this is a subject we're not talking about. And throughout the book, I basically have an honest, open conversation about something I wish somebody had with me on this. And now we're doing a lot of speaking events. We're bringing the public in on this. And since this book's been out, I've had so many emails, so many people have contacted me. It's like, Gary, I've been stuck in this mode of between the depression and grieving. You don't know what's what. The depression and the grieving get tangled together, and it's hard to decide what it is. But if you're still grieving and it's 2 years later, you're probably not grieving anymore.
You know, I had somebody tell me that you only needed to grieve for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And now we both know that's unrealistic.
That's insane.
But grief and depression, that's a very dangerous drink to mix.
Well, we got to be very careful that this doesn't turn into a clinical depression on it. And it's very easy to do. Basically, 50% of caregivers will go through 2 to 3 years of either severe or very, very severe depression on this doing it. I've had people contact me saying, Gary, I've been stuck for 10 years now. This is clinical.
And one of the great points you made in your presentation today, and that is also not talked about, is isolation. I understand that just from my experience in life after caregiving, but can you talk about isolation when caregiving ends?
The general public doesn't understand what I would say. It's like, listen, I'm taking care of my dad, and I feel like I'm isolated. They go, well, how can you be isolated when you're caring for somebody 24/7? And physically, they're correct. I was never alone, but forgive me, Dad, for saying this, but I was starving for intelligent conversation.
Right.
And now I get friends from the past, like when I first started going into this caregiving campaign, they'd call up and say, hey, Gary, you want to go to the movies? We're all going to go to the movies tonight. I'm like, I can't. I got to stay here with my dad. So they're like, okay. They call back 3 weeks later. It's like, hey, Gary, we're going to go bowling tonight. You want to join us? I'm like, I can't. I got to stay with my dad. Well, you know what happens after that? Your phone stops ringing.
Right.
On it. And it was like, oh, no, it's not true. I'm like, I'm telling you. I'm taking my phone. I'm shaking it. I'm like, there's something wrong with Marbell.
Why is it not ringing?
Right. I can dial out, but nobody's dialing in on it, man. And you talk with other caregivers, it's the same thing all around. I mean, and you have a few of these friends that stick around with you, and they're special. These are special people. But when you come out of this at the end of this campaign, you're probably going to have new friends. You're going to go to support groups. You're going to meet some of the most amazing people through this journey, and it's because they're going through the same thing that we just went through. And they understand the concept of this. Caregiving's tough. It's not an easy thing. Not everybody can do it. But this is our family.
And that's what's one of the great things about caregiving. Even though our journeys could be different, we all have this innate ability to understand each other. And that's the same way with our journey after caregiving ends. It's going to be different for everybody, but we've got to be able to share our story so that we can get through this.
The bond kind of gets pretty amazing with caregivers. It's a brother-sisterhood type of thing that, okay, very few of us may have experiences, and it's not very few because there's millions of us now that are going through this on it, but it's a unique situation where until you actually experience it, you don't get it. The general public does not get what we're doing. And most of them are like, why aren't you just putting them in a home? It's like, this is our family.
Right.
We're better, the way I look at it, and all the people that I know that have been through this, we're better people than that on it. And there's a time and a place where, okay, now it's safe for them to be in a facility. But we try, the goal is to keep them home as long as we can.
Unfortunately, the key word, safe.
Safe is true. But what we got to understand about caregiving is that this is all about sacrifices. The sacrifices that we make And it's multiple sacrifices to care for our loved ones. We give up our employment, some of us. We're giving up our social life on doing it. But I'll go back to it again. This is our family.
Oh, the financial aspects of caregiving. We could do a whole show on that, and maybe that we will.
Right.
If you had one word of advice for a new caregiver, somebody that's just starting out on their caregiving journey, what would that be?
Besides read the book?
Besides read the book.
Right.
Very good.
Right. You got to be honest about this whole situation.
Yeah.
When you go to the doctor and you're there and you're bringing your loved one to the doctor and you're not feeling right, you got to be honest. You got to be open to your conversation on this. Mm-hmm. We do not want to get into that clinical depression state. And I'm going to tell you, even while we're caregiving, not even afterwards, this can happen to us. We got that solitude. We got that isolation going on. We're starving for intelligent conversation. We're feeling depressed. We're watching somebody dissolve in front of us that we love.
Right.
This is the thing. So we got to be careful of this. And even afterwards, one of the hardest things I had was opening up to the doctor and talking about the after effects of caregiving on this. It took me 4 tries to talk to this doctor, to open up and say, hey, I got a problem here. And we should go through this. I waited years too long, and that's what made me write the book. Honestly, I tried writing this book 2 years prior to this, and I couldn't do it. I was stuck in the middle of it. I had to fold the book up, put it back on the shelf, and attack it later on it.
You've got a nice piece of work here.
Well, it's an honest piece of work. That's one thing I really feel strongly about on it. I mean, you got to open up. After folding it up and putting it away, I knew when I came back to it, I said, you got to be open. You got to open it. I opened myself up personally more than I probably ever had in any of my other writings on this. But that's the only way this book was going to work.
It's heartfelt. I've read it. I've got an autographed copy. And how can people get a copy of your book?
They're all on, everything I write's on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. Everything's on Kindle. If you're an ebook reader, you can go to Amazon, get it on Kindle. Or you can go to commonsensecaregiving.com, my site. I'll send you a signed copy of it. So,
Gary, it's great to having you on today. Thank you for your great work.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
I'm Chris MacLellan, the Bowtie Guy. I'm creating a life to love after caregiving ends by writing, travel, and being with awesome people like Gary Joseph Leblanc. Check me out on thebowtieguy.com. We'll see you for another episode of Healing Ties. Bye-bye.